So we are halfway through the fishing season here on Lake Michigan, and I thought now would be a great time to sit down and go through what have been some of my best producing spoons for 2024 so far. Welcome to the channel. My name is Michael, the ChiCityYaker, and quickly, apologies for not having a lot of fishing videos on the channel for the month of June. I injured my back that had me out for 2 weeks, and then the rest of the month of June, we had just had terrible winds that didn't allow me to get out on the kayak, although I have been out on the boat with some buddies and still keeping my fingers on the pulse of the fishing out here for the salmon and trout. And so what I'm going to do in this video is share with you what have been some of my best producing spoons up to this point, halfway through the year, and see if these are some spoons that you are using and are working well for you as well, or maybe these may be some spoons that you might want to consider adding to your spoon box and give them a shot out there for the remainder of the year. And I will try to do a end of year full kind of best of 2024 spoons and see how the final year-long review pans out compared to this half-year kind of review. So with that being said, I'm gonna start at like the bottom, and I'm gonna then end it with the spoons that have been working the best for me. So let's start there. And that's gonna be some, surprisingly, Moonshines. Normally moonshines in our area are top tier. They're gonna, do the bulk of the heavy lifting for spoons. Now, I will say that this year, the spoon bite didn't really turn on, fire off until maybe around mid-June. And even then, it hasn't really been like an amazing spoon bite. Last year, 2023, we had a phenomenal spoon bite that started in the kind of like springtime, back in the spring, early summer, and it just was all year. I mean, spoons was the deal. This year, it's been flash or fly, and spoons have caught fish, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't been nothing like in years past with just how good they've been. That being said, Moonshine have been producing for me, but not at the same level as they have in the past. So we'll start with one right here. Blue Hulk has been pulling some fish for me. He's been working well. It depends on the day. One common theme that you'll notice throughout all of these spoons is there's a lot of blues. Blues this year on spoons tend, for me, seem to be the common denominator in a lot of the spoons here. But Blue Hulk, I mean, I've been running this guy in the last few trips on the boat on a 200 copper. They've done well and pulled some fish, a mixed bag of big coho and some kings. Tend to have been so far some of those 2-year-old, 3-year-old kings. No jumbo kings just yet off the Blue Hulk, but definitely a good spoon nonetheless. And Blue Hulk's been doing some work for me as well. Another one has been Blue Flounder. This is a staple. This is one of my go-tos. And for me, typically blue on spoons turns on in July, but it's been proven to be working well before we've gotten into July. It's been working all month of June. Blue Flounder, it's been good. This one didn't really matter where I put it in the water column. I've had it off a rigger. I've had it on my torpedo lines in the kayak. I've also put it out on SWRs on the boat, and it's just been pulling a mixed bag of coho, kings, and steelhead. Now, when it comes to the moonshines, by far the one that has kind of risen to the top out of all of the spoons, and this is just based off of conversations with many anglers, the one common one that's been doing well on the Moonshine brand has been Wonder Bread. No surprise there, a classic color, but the Wonder Bread has been doing real damage on the kings when it comes to Moonshine spoons this year. Running it off of SWR, running it off of lead cores, anywhere from 5 to 8 colors, and then on your coppers, the 200 and 300 coppers. It doesn't really matter where you put the Wonder Bread at. It has been the most consistent of the Moonshine spoons in the last month and a half, 2 months, trolling this guy. And that's, again, not just for me, but for many other anglers that I'm talking to that come through the tackle shop that I've talked to. Wonder Bread has been more of the consistent spoon out of the Moonshine brand taking fish. Now let's move on to a new brand to me, and it's one that's making a name for itself around the lake, and that's going to be Mr. Chrome lures. Now they make a variety of different kind of lures. Primarily the ones I've been using have been their spoons and their flashers. We'll talk about the flashers in a separate video. But as far as their spoons go, I have quite a few of them, and big shout out to Mr. Chrome. They sent me a care package so I can test the lures, see how I like them, see how they fish for me. And unfortunately, while I have about, 7 or 8 of them that I really want to all try, I haven't had a chance to try all of them just yet. The 2 that I have that have been working for me that I really like, first is going to be this guy right here, Pineapple Paradise. This guy, early in the season, while still fishing in Chicago for the early spring coho, this thing was being smacked on. And to my own detriment and fault, I would say, I kind of haven't really pulled it out since when I should. I mean, this thing should take steelhead. In fact, when I talked to the owner, Mr. Chrome, when I said, hey, what are some of your top spoons that, your anglers that fish your brand, gravitate to? They're based in Michigan, so they have, a lot of the salmon anglers from the Michigan side using their lures. This is one of the ones that he said is a go-to for steelhead. And now that the steelhead are around in our area, I need to put this back out there. And I know it's going to work. I know it works for coho already. I don't see a reason why this won't work right now. I would definitely go ahead and put this on a seven color lead core immediately, maybe a 250 copper. But I think this is going to continue to do well. It did well for me already early in the season, and I kind of just forgot about it. But I'm making a mental note to get that back out there. Another one of the other Mr. Chrome spoons that I've used, and it's caught me quite a few fish, and some recent trips actually, is the Aurora spoon. One look at this, you can just tell it's a fish catching lure. You've got the black, you've got the blue, and the green on the sides with the ladder back down the middle. I knew immediately when I saw this, I'm like, this is gonna take some kings, and it sure enough did. On some of the recent fishing trips on the boat with some buddies, I got this guy in the water. I wanna say we put this on some of our long lines off the boat there, maybe a 200 copper, I think it might've been just a couple weeks ago. You get the idea here that we're fishing it roughly in those 200 coppers, 250 coppers. It ended up taking like 3 kings on that trip. It did really, really well. So for me, it already kind of gave me a lot of confidence in this one, which is been doing really well. And up to this point, yeah, it's been great. I'm gonna continue to soak this guy in the water and see if he can't drum up something north of 20 pounds. But good overall experience, good quality spoon, great colors from the Mr. Chrome, and I look forward to trying out some more of their spoons. But those are just 2 that have been producing for me a bit more consistently. Now, one thing as we go into the next 2 brands of spoons, because the Moonshine and the Mr. Chrome have been like producing, but not like always consistent producing. And I don't think it's because obviously the colors of the lure of the spoon or the quality of the spoon. I don't think that's the case at all as to why they haven't been as productive as in previous seasons. I think a lot of the reason why they haven't been nearly as productive as the next 2 series of spoons I'm about to share with you is because a lot of the bait that our fish have been feeding on up until this point have been about 3-inch alewives, very small alewives. And what happens is a lot of the times these fish concentrate on profile over, color and anything else. And so the Moonshine and the Mr. Chrome tend to be a little bit on the bigger side. When you take a 3-inch alewife and you were to put it against those spoons, these spoons are bigger, right? By all metrics. So these next 2 brands of spoons are more closely resemble in size and profile to the smaller alewife, and that is why I believe they've been way more consistent in their fish catching for me. So next brand, Stinger. No surprise here. Stinger, you definitely are getting into a more slimmer profile. Blue Dolphin right here. It's a stud, it's a classic. Just landed me my biggest king up to this point in the year, just a few days ago, a 22 pounder, and it was on a 7-color lead core out in 200 whatever feet of water we were in that day. So that fish was feeding up in the warm water, crushed the Blue Dolphin. This guy is tried and true. That's why I put it out there, why we had it out there rather, and took a big king. Another Stinger spoon that has been fishing very, very well on some recent trips has been just the Hud. This Hud has been smoking fish up in that 40-foot depth range that are feeding out of temp, steelhead, coho, and there've been some juvenile kings all taking the Hud up top. Don't sleep on this guy. It's an OG colorway that some folks may not give it any thought because it looks kind of plain and boring, but this Hud has been doing some real damage, especially when you're fishing it kind of above the thermocline in the slightly warmer water where those fish are actively feeding. This guy has been doing work, especially in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, doing some boat trips off of lead cores, 7 to 8 colors, 7 color especially, has been doing really well. Now, as we get to the brand of spoon that has by and large been taking the most fish for me from the beginning of the season, consistently all the way through now, and that's going to be the Dreamweaver Super Slims. And the reason why the Super Slims, in my opinion, have been the best for me and most consistent is because of the profile. When you take a 3-inch alewife and you lay it next to the spoon, it's almost exactly the same size in terms of top to bottom, that profile. See how thin it is around here? That 3-inch alewife ain't too much bigger than this spoon right here. And so the Super Slims have been really doing a lot of the heavy lifting for me in terms of spoons when I am fishing spoons out in the water since the early spring all the way through the middle of the year where we are at right now. In particular here, Blue Slice has been very, very effective for me. Again, blues have just been out fishing some of the other colors spoons that I have. Blue Slice has been a great one, running this off a lead course, anywhere from a 5 to an 8 color. Early in the year, ran it off torpedoes, 30 feet back off to torpedoes, fishing it anywhere from 20 to 30 down. Early in the spring, it's just been taking cohos, primarily a lot of cohos, and I think that profile is more conducive to getting that coho bite. Not to say kings won't take it, because one of my favorite Super Slims is going to be the half A-bomb. This guy right here, you've got green, you got blue. It does damage when those kings are around. They really like this one as well. And we've been fishing this guy. It's been taking fish as well, very, very consistently. And then the final Super Slim that has also been working very well is the Green Slice. This is one of the few all greens or green spoons that I've been fishing that has actually been a bit more on the consistent side. And again, I'm willing to bet that it's simply mostly because of the profile of the spoon itself. You know, when you look at, we'll grab the Moonshine right here, and you know, you just kind of look at them. It's definitely a much slimmer profile compared to the Moonshine, and so I think that's what really matters when they're focused on that bait. Even compared against the Mr. Chrome, slightly slimmer profile. Now, the one thing I will say is I noticed recently in the last trip or two that the coho and the king that we caught, we opened up, they are on the bigger bait now. They had 5 and 6-inch alewife in them, and that was fish that were offshore. So it's probably a chance to start switching things out. It's not to say that folks aren't catching fish on mag-size spoons, because people are catching fish on mag-size spoons. I just don't, you know, for me, when I think about spoons, I'm always thinking about what's going to give me the most catch opportunities. I'm not always out there trying to catch just solely focus on the big fish. If I'm wanting to focus simply on big fish, I would run a meat rig. I'd run big paddles. I'd run the mag size spoons, because I'm going for less numbers and just a bigger quality fish. But when I'm on a kayak, I just want to catch something, you know, like it's a lot of work enough as it is to get out there in the water. So I want to maximize and just put lures out there that is going to give me the most fish catching opportunities, which is why I tend to normally default down to standard size spoons. This year, again, I've been leaning super heavily into my Super Slims to help get fish into the kayak from the spring into the transition into summer, and I'm going to continue to fish them now in July and going in until the fall because they've been very productive. And I will probably perhaps throw in some mag sizes in there now that I have seen that these fish are onto the big bait, and we're in areas where there is bigger bait. We'll definitely make some adjustments to soak some bigger profile, you know, mag size spoons on there to purposely look for a bigger fish. You know, that being said, I mean, you know, it's not uncommon to catch a big fish on some of the smaller stuff. I mean, 22 pounder came off of a stinger, and that's how I think of things when I'm using these spoons for fishing for salmon and trout. And that's really, I mean, out of all the spoons I have in my box, these like 10 or 12 spoons have been the heavy rotation of spoons for me. I'll start with one of these or two of these on a rod, and then I'll start cycling through the rest of them, and I'll work through those guys. Whereas some of the other spoons, like last year, a lot of spoons that had black in it and dark colors really excelled. Hasn't really been the case. I've soaked some spoons that have black on it, and it would just kind of be, nothing would happen. So every year it seems like these fish tend to want a little something different, which I find very interesting. This year, for me, again, it's been spoons that have been a little bit on the smaller side, like the Super Slims, you know, slimmer profile baits. And so with that being said, I'd love to hear how your spoon fishing has been. Are you noticing the same trends that I've talked about in today's video? Are you experiencing something totally different? Has it been a big mag spoon bite for you? Are the colors different that are working for you than what I have? I suspect that will be the case because every port and everywhere is a little bit different. So for me in our area, this is what's been kind of working for me. Let me know down below in the comments what's been working for you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you need any of the gear I've talked about, there's links down below where you can check them all out and add it to your arsenal. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Check out the Patreon where you can join my community on Patreon where we have supporter chat, group chats, outings, and so on and so forth. The link to all of that is down below. Thank you for your time. See you guys later.